All right, go ahead, John.
All righty. So, hey, thank you everybody for joining us tonight, especially the neighbors and council members. We've been working hard over the last couple of months. As you know, the last meeting, we wanted to establish a 45% review to just show you what the accomplishments we've made over the last couple of months. Just redeveloping the plan in concert for everything that we've talked about. And so tonight, hopefully we'll be able to present a plan that seems receptive to a lot of the folks that we've met with over the last couple of months. I know we don't want to spend a lot of time on the back history on this. We want to spend most of the time tonight moving forward on how we look at developing stormwater improvements that keep the charm and character of the town. So I have spent a lot of time with all of you, with the neighbors over the last couple of months. And so hopefully we've been able to develop a plan that will work for you all, but at the same time work for the engineering and the protection of our lakes. And that's kind of the compromise and the balance that we're always trying to achieve. And so I'm going to really kind of turn it over to Hal tonight so that he can kind of walk you through the plan. I don't think that most of this is going to be a crazy deviation from what we've talked about personally with you all. But again, this is all part of what we've proposed and what we've agreed to at the 45%. And so this is the opportunity for us to walk through, discuss the plan with you, and then hear your comments, and then make any minor or adjustments from the input that we get from you all. So hopefully you'll be happy by the time we finish this conversation, and you'll be pleased with the plan. Again, remembering that at the end of the day, our biggest picture here is to protect the lakes in our town and our charm. So anyways, Hal, I'll turn it over to you. And thanks, Robert, for the invitation to lead this off.
No problem. Just for everybody's information too, is that the 45% plans have to be approved by town council as well as the 100% plans. So you have several bites at the apple. So once we have somewhat of a blessing tonight, or can provide some edits to the 45% design that make engineering sense, we'll present to town council, have them approve the 45%. And then once we get the 100%, then we can go ahead and have another workshop and then bring it to town council, have them approve it, and then we can go ahead and move forward with construction. Because again, this is a hazard mitigation grant program funded through FEMA and the state. So we have some timelines that we have to meet, but we believe that what we're going to design will meet the intent of the grant. So it is not coming out of the stormwater fund or the town coffers. And with that, I'll turn it over to Hal.
Yeah, thank you, Robert and John. Thank you for allowing me to speak with everyone tonight. I appreciate the opportunity. As John mentioned, we had a lengthy study phase where we listened to your comments and concerns, and I believe that we've come up with a plan that addresses all of them, and that's what I would like to present to you tonight. Also, as mentioned, we've been pretty busy working on the 45% plans, which is what you see in front of you. And the plans are available, I believe, online, but there is a lot of detail in these construction plans, and I'm just gonna kind of flip through them real quick, and feel free to review them at your leisure. But I think that to help facilitate this discussion, we created a color-coded exhibit similar to what we did in the study, as a means to kind of just be a more visually aesthetic way to view and understand what our plan and approach is. The three main tenets that we learned from the study is that keep the roads dirt, keep their existing widths and their charm, and also avoid tree impact. So those three tenets were our guiding principles in establishing our 45% design, refining that from the study. So I'm going to point your attention to the profile real quick. And as you can see, the purple is the proposed profile. So we're matching the existing grades as much as possible that's out there. And we're pitching the roads towards areas away from areas that are prone to flooding in the existing condition. So we're pitching the road away from the low-lying areas that you see here and into inlets and swales where we can capture them, retain them, and convey them to the outfall in order to avoid the issues that you are currently experiencing. So with that, I'm gonna zoom into the plan view. I'm gonna work my way from 6th down to Fernwood Park, and then I'll take 7th to Main. And then after that, we can open up to any questions or comments that you may have. So here is Butler and 6th. So in this area, the road is going to be sloped to the east, which is on the top of the page right here. North is to my left, so east would be over this area here. So we're sloping the road with a 3% cross slope in this area to help the drainage flow. And we have concrete shoulder gutter and these gutter inlets to catch that flow and convey them to the south. And then at your driveway locations, we have what are called drop curves, which are kind of the flatter curves that you see. And that, that transitions at your driveway location so that you have a smooth entrance to your driveways. Because we have shoulder gutter and these inlets here, and because this is the upper part of the basin that doesn't receive the majority of the runoff just yet, we were able to utilize the curbing and avoid ditches in this area and avoid any impacts to existing septic systems and trees. So as we go further along the corridor, and actually the hatching that you see is the estimated harmonization of your driveway. And we plan on using the same material that you currently have. So if your driveway is paver, it'll be replaced by paver. If it's gravel, it'll be replaced by gravel. If there's a desire to have another type of material, that can definitely be discussed. And if it's approved by town council, we can definitely accommodate. But for now, the plan is to replace your driveway with whatever material that you currently have. So as we move further south, this is where, as you can see the profile, everything flows towards the lake just naturally. And so by the time you get down to this area right in here, you get a lot of runoff, and we want to be able to capture that runoff before it gets to the lake and also pitch the road so that it's not eroding the road. Now with the dirt road, there are always going to be some erosion issues, and that's kind of the con of having dirt roads, but I know that the pros outweigh the con. So we're also working with Tanya and other public works staff to find dirt road material that will help that erosion. We're actively working with Tanya on that right now. But it will be dirt, it will be the finished product. In this area, the roadway is pitched towards the east and towards the north. And really that helps a couple of things. It helps the low-lying property here, and also since since this part is going to be pitched this way, it goes into this ditch that we've designed on the swell that we've designed on the north side. And so it will reduce the amount of water that will flow into the low-lying properties, as well as into Fernwood Park and eventually the lake. So this swale here is where a majority of the runoff is designed to go. But as a redundancy and as an insurance measure, just to make sure that you don't have the problems that you do now, we do recommend grading a small swale over here. So any water that does make its way down here, that will be captured and it won't go offsite onto property. So with that, I'm going to focus on Fernwood Park a little bit, and then I'll move east along 7th. So with Fernwood Park, we did a very detailed grading plan, which I will share with you. But the main goal was to try to get all of the Butler and 7th runoff into the ditch on the north and east side, so that all we're really dealing with is the runoff from Fernwood Park. As you know, in today's condition, the water comes rapidly down the road and eventually gets into Fernwood Park pretty quickly. We want to be able to control that flow and not have it enter Fernwood Park for our design storm event. Now with Fernwood Park, we established these vegetated swales, which you can kind of see the hatching here, which is like a jagged pattern. And we've graded the parking area as well as the driveway area for the boat ramp, so that it drains into these swells and gets captured and conveyed over here before it discharges into a natural low point and goes into the lake. Now with this, with the pond that's here, which will be a rain garden that we're going to design after the 45% our plans are approved. And the vegetated swales, we have a means to control the water, hold the water, slow it down before it gets into the lake. And a lot of the sediment and turbidity is going to be captured in these areas that will have to be maintained, and we'll work with Public Works staff on the maintenance plan. But basically it will hold and retain a lot of that erosion and sediment so that it does not get into the lakes. We do propose for your consideration that this area, the boat ramp here, that we used a groove super paved concrete in this area, just in order to control the erosion in this area, and also to provide a kind of a better dock substance, a better substance for the boat ramp. And over here, we did talk to John and Robert, and there was a desire to kind of upgrade this parking area a bit. So we're proposing gravel in this area for this portion of the parking lot that the town uses. Now I'm going to show you the detailed grading plan briefly.
Well, real quick, Hal, before we move on, can you go back to the Fernwood Park overlay?
Yep.
Now, as far as the parking that is mostly used by FWC or any emergency vehicles that need to be accessing the site, in addition to that, Tanya's been working with a security camera company. We actually met there on site today. And where you see the two trees that are in blue on the east side or the south side of that parking area, the orange parking area, we'll be locating a security camera that's going to have not only cameras pointing towards the boat dock, but also towards Anime Clance's house and the exit and entrance of Fernwood Park. It'll also have a license plate reader as well. I know a lot of you that live in that area have issues with people partying, people using the facilities, I would say, in your backyards. With the license plate reader and the cameras, we're going to be able to not only do real-time video of what's going on out there, and we'll have the PD access that, but we'll be able to identify those people that are using the park in not the most appropriate manner, to put it lightly, and then use the license plate reader to actually go ahead and do trespass warnings for those people. It's not an ultimate fix, but it's getting closer to a fix. And hopefully once we get the swim area established over by Bird Island, it's chipping away at a lot of the problems that we're seeing out there. So we're looking at getting that approved sooner than later. So hopefully within 6 to 8 weeks, you'll have a security camera system up. We are going to go ahead and put up signage for the cooler checks, as well as security cameras will be on site signage. So hopefully, again, that'll curtail some of the misbehavior that you're experiencing, not only there, but at 4th Avenue and also Lake Street. So those are 3 areas that we're focusing on to make sure that we get camera systems up to hopefully stop a lot of the issues, or at least, curtail some of the issues that we're having at those 3 areas. And I know if Tanya wanted to add anything as to the cameras or the type of materials or the pilot projects that she's working on, so you can tell and see what type of materials that she's looking at for those 2 projects.
Sure, Robert, I'd be happy to. One of the things that was interesting with the security cameras today, is I think that what we need is something that notifies us when there's activity happening there. It can be pulled up on a phone, immediately seen what's going on down there, and PD can get there immediately. I think the ability to be able to get there as quickly as possible is going to be what's going to be helpful with this system. So I'm really excited to get those quotes and get moving on that, so that everyone can have a little bit more peace of mind relative to that. The materials that we've been looking at are working out very, very well. Both materials are performing very well and have received good reports back from the citizens or the residents. But the one product that's at, and I can tell residents this, if you're at Jackie's house on Forest all the way to the intersection at 2nd, that is what we think is the better material of the 2. So I do encourage residents to go by and take a look at it. It's holding up really well. I was really hopeful we were going to have rain this weekend so we could see how it held up there. But the other area that's interesting, that's holding up nicely, is also Lake at 5th. That's a huge steep area. and we rolled in that material, and it looks as good as it did the day we rolled it in today, and that's now what, 3 weeks later. So we're really, really happy with how those materials are performing. I have connected How to the vendor we're using. I know they've had a conversation, and my next goal is to get How out to take a look at some of these products in our roadways and see what he thinks. But I'm just happy to be here and be able to help residents with some of the issues they're having. The other thing many residents have complained about is the dust. So I was able to demonstrate for the residents on Facebook that this new material is far less dusty. There was hardly any dust coming up of Travis's pickup truck as he drove down the road on Forest. So we're really excited about it and happy to be helping the citizens and the residents with something that's going to improve their quality of life. So that's all I've got, Robert.
Okay, and then we're actually in budget session right now for the directors and staff, and two of the things that we're working on is to farming out the actual maintenance of the swale systems. So we'll be hiring a third party for that, and then we'll be looking at actually hiring a was it a lakefront specialist or a environmental specialist to take a look at the water quality and the lake qualities in and around town to make sure that whatever we're doing is not harming the lakes, but actually improving the lake and the water quality. Is that correct, Tanya?
Yes, the lakes management consultant. So someone that can help with what should be planted around the lakes, what can't be planted, what can be removed, what can't be removed, those types of things, helping us ensure that the ditches and swales are not contributing to poor water quality because they are getting treated correctly, those types of things. So that's what we're looking at for that. And thank you for reminding me, Robert. My team has been out these last 2 days. They've been actually having a race with one another, going through and capturing the GPS locations for all our ditches and swales. So they've actually been having a good time doing that. So they were up to 62 locations by the time I left today. And I expect to come back in tomorrow and have quite a few more of those ditches and swales logged. So that'll be coming your way too, Hal.
In addition to that, we're looking at another application on our app that is going to be similar to Orange County's 311. So the residents can actually take pictures and pretty much geolocate the exact area where the problem is, and then it'll go directly to Tanya and the crew to actually fix. So there's a lot of things that we're working on to improve the level and quality of service that Public Works is providing you guys. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Hal.
Great. Yeah, and look forward to working with you, Tanya, on all those items, the inventory as well as the material. And I'll be out there next week and we can take a look at it together. I did speak to the vendor today, so I got a lot of good info we can talk about. So back to the current discussion, and I'm glad that we did stop here because our main goal, aside from capturing the water and also addressing the water quality, was to make sure that we didn't impact any trees, as well as preserve the existing parking that's out there. So we have identified these swale locations that does both. There are no tree impacts, as well as the parking area that you currently utilize is preserved. The detailed grading plan kind of shows the length at which we went through to make sure that this is graded properly. So as you can see here, this is what we call the crown of the road. And from this point, it's going to be crowned in this direction. So it's meant to capture all the water on Butler and 7th itself and go in this ditch. And then from this area, we've kind of graded everything to go into this swale here from this side, and then over into this swale on this side. So really, we really looked at this area and we've done a really good grading plan to make sure that we capture all that runoff that I know is very concerning for everyone. With that, I'll kind of make that turn east and then I'll head down 7th. So as we get past this area where we have the opportunity and the need for this larger swale because of the amount of runoff we're getting, there is less runoff in this area because the basin, the low point of the basin is down here. So in this area, we were able to utilize a shoulder gutter system similar to what I showed you on the east side of Butler, with inlets and also the drop curb into your driveways. So we were able to capture it through the gutter. We were able to pipe it through the system and discharge it into the swale, which again discharges into the retention area that will be a rain garden on Fernwood Park. Now, the area between Forest and Main Street, we were asked to take a really deep, good look at whether or not we needed swales in this area, and that's exactly what we did. At the very top of the basin, we recognize that you're not getting very much runoff, that, the area is relatively flat, and that you don't have any history of, erosion or problems of flooding. So in this area, our numbers confirm that. So we're not proposing any swales in this area. Once we get about halfway, we can kind of see more runoff that would kind of be traveling down the road and eroding the road. Even though it's not as substantial as a problem as further downstream, it's something that we can efficiently and easily capture with a V-swell. So a V-swell is just a very small swell that's going to be sodded. In this area, it's going to look something like this. And this V-swell will capture that runoff and able for us to be able to use the swell instead of the roadway for it, for the conveyance of the runoff during rain events. So we do recommend and we do propose a small swell in this area. Once again, we're not impacting any trees in this area. And then we have a little bit more right of way, a little bit more room here on Forest. So the swell does get a little bigger, which helps us with storage volume. And then that gets piped over the west side of Forest and kind of joins the system here. Now in this area, the road is going to be pitched towards the north. And so that's why the drainage inlets and the V swales are on this side. On this side, you'll be on the slightly higher side of the road. And so in this area should remain relatively high and dry while everything flows towards the north with some proper maintenance and the right type of material that Tanya and I are working on. There is one tree that is going to be impacted, and we have looked at that during the study as well as the arborist and walked it with Robert and John and on the residents, and this camphor tree that's here. And so that tree is still being impacted with some slight regrading work in here, and we show it to be removed, but that is the only tree impact within the entire project. Now with that, I believe that pretty much summarizes my overview of where we're at. Like I said, if we get approval from the town, then we will take these detailed plans to 100%, where they could be bid for construction. And we would also be permitting this through the Water Management District, demonstrating our best management practices for stormwater retention and quality. So with that, Robert, I will turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you. If you would like, you can go ahead and type a question in the chat box or use the raise hand icon, and then we'll call on each and every one of you. So at this time, go ahead and if you have any questions, please raise your hand. There's Bill's raising his real hand, so we'll start with Bill.
I don't have the hand raising button here. I just want to thank you guys for all your hard work on this and for working with Tanya and for preserving, as much of 7th Avenue as you can by the old schoolhouse. I think that's an important vista for us to maintain. And so I appreciate that extra effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. Anna Mae has her hand raised in the chat box. So Anna Mae. You have to unmute, Anna Mae.
Okay, that work?
Works.
Yes.
Okay, hi. I just want to say thank you. I know a lot of effort's gone into this and a lot of care, and I appreciate that. I have a couple questions. One of them is, I understood, and is it true that we are going to be adding water pipes at the same time during this project? For
Robert,
city water?
Robert, do you want me to respond or do you want to kick it off?
You can respond.
Sure. So yes, so the plan is that in our design contract, there are tasks associated with providing potable water along Butler and 7th. So yes, we would like to put water lines with this project if it's approved by town council. So my thought process is I want to get the footprint of the road, the swales, the shoulder gutter, the inlets, that would get approved by, the town council with input from the residents. That's the first step. And then based upon where the swales are, we're going to work with Robert, Tanya, and John to identify locations where we think the water main should go. It will likely be a 6 to 8 inch water main. And so then we would lay that out and we would present that as well in the public meeting so that you can kind of see where the water main would go. And we would kind of use those same guidelines as we would try to put in areas that minimizes tree impacts, that minimizes property impacts. And so that is the plan, that once we get an approval for this footprint, we would lay out the water line for consideration.
Okay, thank you. Second question is about parking. I notice it looks like when I look in the park that with the rain garden and, having the swale in front of where the cars are parked, that we are going to have less parking down there, which, I'm not arguing about that at all. And this is aside from the drainage issue, but how are we going to accommodate the overflow? It looks like, and we have discussed it, that there is a swale adjacent to my property and we have curbing. I don't want people parking along my swale. And so I feel like it will degrade it. And we already have parking issues on our street with street parking. So I would like to request something along my area, and everyone else can speak for themselves, to deter people parking there, because I foresee an issue with that. It already is an issue.
That's going to be an ongoing discussion, and that's going to be relative to, I think, the Bird Island Fernwood Park issue. Because we've talked about, if we put no parking signs along the right of way, that not only means, people that aren't residents, but also residents cannot park there as well. And then people are talking about parking passes and all sorts of stuff, but that means landscapers, your aunts, uncles, grandchildren that want to visit. That means everybody will not be able to park, but that's going to be a separate discussion that we're going to have about the park itself and how do we prevent access or restrict access, not only within the park itself, but along the roadways adjacent to that. Because again, there's issues not only at Fernwood, but at Lake Street and then 4th Avenue. Okay, and I mean, I don't know the solution to that. Even, I know landscapers need to park. I have no problem with that. But I get overflow from other people on our street on my swale. And of course with Fernwood Park, and I mean, as you know, a lot of the people that come down there aren't residents. I don't know if it would help to have, to limit the time that somebody could park there, enough time for a landscaper to do their work and leave, but not have long-term parking. I know we can talk about that at another time. But, I'm concerned again that, there's a swale there, it's grassed, it's a nice place to park. And the last thing I want is for my swale to be degraded in any way, because as everyone knows, I am downhill from this whole thing. And I have got to protect my property from any further damage. So I think those are my two comments that I'm thinking of now. I've told everyone I have every intention of being a team player here, and I appreciate all the care and the work that has gone into this. Yeah, thank you. And the no parking on weekends is a great idea. I mean, it's something I didn't even consider as far as signage, but that could be an idea that we can implement along the right-of-ways adjacent to the park to direct parking into Fernwood Park, and then come up with another plan as far as resident parking only or parking pass only. But that's a longer further discussion beyond just stormwater. So we'll definitely have that.
I know it is. I know it is. I just wanted to bring it up because it is related to stormwater, and just Robert, to get your buy-in that you'll continue this discussion with us. I'd appreciate that. Okay.
Believe me, my phone rings off the hook on the weekends and text messages and stuff. So the sooner I can try to resolve this issue, the better.
Okay. Okay.
Scott Hardog is on, and Hal and John and Tanya, if we can just stay on after a little bit. I know he's here talking about the Bessie project because he has questions about Third Magnolia. So if we can hang on just after this presentation, just answer some of his questions. But we have Tom Stroop up next.
I had to put a shirt on.
Since when?
I was going to say that's a first.
I spoke to all of you a lot from the very beginning of all this, and I really thank you guys for everything, guys and girls. And I really very happy for Tanya to be here. And I think everybody else says the same thing when I speak to them. But thanks for all your hard work. Thanks for listening, even beyond all the bickering and arguing and confrontations, whatever you want to call them. It still has been very cordial and professional, and I think that's the way it should be done. And I think you guys are a good example of that. And thanks for all your hard work, Hal. I know we've run you through the ringer for the last, seems like a year at least, back and forth. And I've never seen him waver. He'd make a good SWAT commander because he doesn't seem to get frazzled too easy. But thank you guys for everything. That's all I have to say about that. And keep up the great work.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Every compliment that Hal gets, he gets an additional McRib.
That is my vice. Those McRibs are delicious. I'm not even sure it's meat, but it's good.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else with a hand raise or a question? Looking through, seeing none. The camera system that I was talking about is underneath my threshold for spending. So I will go ahead and authorize that and then bring it to town council as far as what I spent the money on. Because if I were to wait, then you're looking at July timeframe for me to purchase the security camera system. And then 6 weeks out from there for the implementation, which takes us closer to when school's back in session, which eliminates pretty much a lot of the need for it. But again, we have the off-duty detail out there, and then hopefully this cameras will, again, curtail some of the misbehavior that's happening out there. Seeing nothing else on Butler, thank you all for your questions. And at this time, Mr. Hartog, if you just want to stay on for a little bit, I'll stop the recording and we'll answer some of your questions relative to the surveying on 3rd and Magnolia. So good evening, everybody, and happy anniversary, Mr. Martini, and enjoy your trip.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording now.